Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Coffee Jolt with Johnny Cleveland show. Oh, brother. We certainly got a jolt yesterday as Browns fans, as Coop. Where is Coop? What happened to our guy? Oh, man. The guy is skipping minicamp. We're going to talk about that here on the Coffee Jolt. I'm your host, John Suchan. Welcome aboard. Yes, we are outside on the back patio deck this morning. Beautiful day here in the Buckeye State. Just a great week of weather coming up here. If you're living here in the Buckeye State or the Midwest, you were probably enjoying the same thing. So I wanted to come outside and start our morning off, Browns fans, together. Got my cup of coffee, cup of Joe here. Get going on the Coffee Jolt. Yeah, boy, some eyebrows were raised with our guy Amari not being there. Now, you know, we've talked a little bit about it. I know Lou talked about it on his show this morning on the Burning River Browns Talk. And the rest of the guys here on the Fanatical Elves will be talking about it too. We'll also have our Fanatical Elves show Thursday, tomorrow night at around 8:30, 9 o'clock. We are giving away another Browns hat. Yeah, thanks to Jarrell Flint and his dog food radio show, or his apparel store. We're giving away one of his awesome, cool hats. So make sure that you are following here on the Fanatical Elves and you are reposting that. And also, hey, man, follow along with us, not only on the X, but also on Facebook and on YouTube. That would be awesome. We're gaining popularity in both those formats as well, so we need you to come along on the ride. So, yeah, Amari does not show up at a mandatory minicamp. And, you know, he's in the last year of his contract. And, you know, he's making $20 million this year. Probably asking for something similar. And like I think Lou talked a little bit about it on his show, about not only is it just about the money, but it's about the years too. And looking at the year 2026, with that being the last year of Deshaun Watson's contract, the quarterback of the Brownies that we paid an arm and a leg for. So, you know, are the Browns going to give Amari a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal? I mean, everyone's anticipating that there will be a deal done. I mean, come on, man. You know, we know Amari Coop is everything to the Browns. Best wide receiver the Browns have had in a bazillion years. And he had that 265-yard game against the Houston Texans. What a game there. 2 of his years here in Cleveland, the 1 year he's had the most yards in his career. He's also had the most touchdowns. I think that was 9 touchdowns in his career. Now, there have been other great wide receivers around the NFL that have done more with scoring touchdowns and whatnot. But what Amari Cooper does for this Browns team in the past and what he will do, hopefully moving forward, is very important. He, you know, he's approaching that age of, what is he going to be, 30? I think within a week. His birthday is June 18th, I want to say. So happy birthday early to Amari Cooper. If you're listening, we want you back. We need you back. You're probably holding out till training camp, and that's okay. But it was a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of a jolt. But we're Browns fans. We know that this is going to get done. We just need to be patient. The Browns, obviously, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, could they have gotten it done earlier? You know, did it have to come to this? And maybe, you know, Amari wanted to, I mean, I would think that the player would want it done, right? So the fact that we're still waiting and now he's sitting out, it's not a good sign. Speaking of not good signs, not to change the subject completely, but another player that's getting a lot of headlines this week for skipping minicamp, not for the same reason, is the aging past Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, what an interesting guy, right? Guy's 40 years old. He's skipping minicamp there with the Jets, and he's really doing a lot of selfish things, And we all liked him in those State Farm commercials for a little bit of time, but man, what a weird guy, right? He's just odd, and I don't care for him much. I'm trying to be respectful right now, but I think personally, I just don't have a lot of respect for the guy, and that's a totally different. You want to compare two guys that we're talking about that are obviously Aaron Rodgers is not sitting out for contracts as Amari Cooper is, but you talk about two guys that are completely different spectrums of what it means to be, an NFL player and a team player. And obviously some people will look at Amari Cooper's situation and say that he's also being a little bit selfish, but I can understand him going into he's 30 years old, last year of his contract. He needs to get it done. I wish the Browns had taken a little bit more time with this player. Obviously bringing in Jerry Jeudy from Denver probably did not help Amari Cooper and his thoughts and feelings toward the Brownies long term. Obviously, Coop, you don't see him beyond this next contract. The thing is, he's only going into his third contract, folks. It's not like he's been in the league for 13, 14 years. So we'll see what happens with Cooper. Hopefully we'll get that done before training camp starts in late July, early part of August, and we'll all be happy campers here in Cleveland. So that's part of the news that's out there. Let me get another jolt to my coffee to wake up. Hope you're having a really good day today. And, when you wake up as Browns fans, we hit those social media platforms like the X and Facebook. Had some technical glitches on our Facebook feed. So if you're watching us on Facebook, thank you. And you can watch us on YouTube as well. And you can listen to us on Spotify, on Apple, on iHeartRadio, any of those podcasting platforms. You can listen to us, subscribe to us so you never miss any of our shows here on the Fanatical Elves. We got a great group of colleagues that bring it to you every day. And we just love the fact that you're tuning in to us and giving us that support. Speaking of podcasting, Bernie Kosar. Yeah, our man, our favorite Cleveland Brown, Bernie. I was talking to some colleagues over at Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders, and we were talking about the top 10 Cleveland Browns players of all time. Now, you threw out names like Otto Graham, and I think I shared that on our Fanatical Elves social media post last night. He's obviously in that top 10 list, just being what he was, such a dominating figure, athlete back in the 40s and 50s for the Brownies. But then you start thinking of who else is in that top 10 list. And one of the colleagues had, I think, thrown in there Nick Chubb at the end, which personally, I think Nick Chubb's in the top 10 already. And this colleague of ours tried to do that. But then the idea came up about, well, where's Bernie? Where's Bernie? Because we all love and cherish Bernie. If you were like me, who's, I'm in my 50s now, grew up watching Bernie, get us to all those AFC championship games. We lost, but he was a guy from Youngstown, and he's always been a hometown kid, wanted to be here in Cleveland, wanted to wear the orange and brown uniform. And so he people say, well, should he be in that top 10? You look statistically, and I've talked about Bernie before, and I love Bernie. But I'll just give you an example, and I've shared this before, like I just said. That game, that AFC, the divisional game in 86, 87, the January of 87, when we were playing the Jets, the double overtime win, Bernie did not have a good game. If you go back and watch that film, there were multiple occasions where he threw interceptions. It was very fortunate. It was very fortunate the Browns were able to work their way back. Obviously, Bernie had a lot to do with that. He was a gunslinger, love him to death. But, does he belong in the top 10 of all time right now in Cleveland Browns history? I don't know. I mean, there's a pretty good list. So check that out. I think Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders is going to be coming out with that article in the next day or two. All right, we're going to talk about Bernie here, a little bit more about something that happened to him or has recently been taking place with him and podcasting. So we'll be right back. This is the Fanatical Elves Network. We're going to pause for commercial breaks. Hey, we're back here on the Coffee Jolt with Jenny Cleveland. I'm your host, John Suchan, and just love you listening in here to the Fanatical Elves Network, part of Fans First Sports Network. We couldn't do it without you, and thank you for your support. Bernie and podcasting. So, Bernie Kosar put down this, he got fired, I don't know, in the fall from the TV network up there in Cleveland because apparently he had put down a substantial bet. It was like $19,000 bet on a Browns game. And it went against his contract that he had with the media group up there that he was working for at the time. What came out recently is that now we're finding out that Bernie is suing this podcasting crew under the name of Big Play, run by this guy named Kendall Miles, like Miles Garrett, but his name is Kendall Miles, who is this podcasting guy who runs Big Play. I don't, you see these Big Play stuff on social media platforms. We're not as big as Big Play yet. So supposedly they had an agreement with Bernie where he was supposed to do certain things for their podcast. Like he would have his own, he had a monthly Bernie Kosar podcast show. Okay, cool. We love Bernie. All of us who are fans of Bernie, we'd probably tune into that because we love Bernie. So he was supposed to do that podcast and then have some social events where he would show up or, make an appearance and all this stuff. Well, apparently back in 2022, he was told by this Big Play and Kendall Miles, who runs Big Play, that he had to put down a $19,000 bet again when the Browns were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe. And apparently he did. I'm guessing the 19,000 has to do with his number 19. And so then we find out later that he gets fired with the other social, the other platform with the TV and all whatnot. So now we're finding out that Bernie's suing Big Play in the amount of, I understand, $600,000. Apparently he was getting paid $150,000. And he's asking for $600,000. Apparently, in one other episode of his podcast on a live show or a recording of a program that he did, he and Kendall Miles got into a verbal altercation where, according to Bernie, Kendall got in his space, in his spitting on him and whatnot. We all do that when we get all hyped up, and apparently Kendall telling Bernie that he owns Bernie. And so there you go. Not everyone's happy. Bernie Kosar is not a happy camper, and hopefully this will be resolved. We all love Bernie. We'd like to see him back with radio shows and programming because he's one of the guys that we've always loved. So hopefully that gets worked out, and we'll move forward. Couple other things that just caught my attention in the news. There was an article this morning or over the last day or so by a young lady, Cynthia Freeland of the NFL Network, wrote a piece about the Brownies and she's predicting them at 8.5 wins this season, basically saying that the Browns' schedule is extremely difficult. She considered it, in her own opinion, the 5th hardest schedule, and she says that the 4-game or 5-game group of games at the very tail end of the season when they play the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Bengals is like the toughest stretch of any NFL team all year long. Now, she does say that the first 5 games of the Browns season, that includes playing like the Giants and the Cowboys, is probably the 4 or 5 easiest games on the season. So, like I've said before, and a lot of us here in the Fanatical Elves have talked about, the Browns' schedule is kind of a mixed bag of things, if you look at it. And that beginning part of the schedule is more favorable. So the Browns really need to build up their win total in that early stretch. They really need to focus in on that. So do you agree with this Cynthia Freeland that of 8.5 wins? Or do you think, she's off? When I threw out this whole thing about being devil's advocate and saying, well, what if the Browns falter big time and go 4-13 or 5-12 this year? And I posed that question to some of my colleagues at the Fanatical Elves. Many of them were like, oh, no way. And many of you will go, no way. But you look at this schedule and you see other pundits out there, NFL analysts, giving them only 8.5 wins in the season. It's a tough schedule. And so I think the Browns obviously have to take it a game at a time. Also, the other article that caught my attention this morning, if you're catching the news, it's like take another jolt of my coffee. It was an article published by a guy named Cody McDaniels of Sports Illustrated. Colt. Maybe it's named Colt McDaniels. I was scribbling it, so I can't read my writing. Talking about how the Browns defense really needs to lock in more next year in the red zone. That we gave up 20 touchdowns in the red zone, which was almost one of the worst numbers in all of the NFL of all the rest of the NFL teams. They only gave up 15 touchdowns on the run by rushing the ball. That was more in the middle of the pack. They didn't force any fumbles in the red zone. 0. There were only like 6 or 7 teams that did that. They did, however, intercept the ball 8 times in the red zone. So they need to continue with those interceptions. They need to force more fumbles, obviously, and then they need to stop giving up those 20 touchdown passes in the red zone. Now, this guy was talking about watching the team in minicamp yesterday in their drills of going 7-on-7, and that the Browns defense made some plays, stopped Deshaun Watson in the group going in those drills. But they're drills. This is practice. Yeah, and it's June. So, but I do agree with his overall take that, yes, the Browns defense does need to really lock in. And if they can improve in that red zone area next year, all things bode very well for the Brownies. Folks, I hope you have a very good rest of your day. Now, remember, Browns fans, okay, as we drink our coffee this morning and wake up and get to watch more highlights of minicamp and Deshaun Watson throwing the ball. I don't know if he's going to throw the ball today. Might come back on tomorrow and do that. But remember, Browns, right? You know this. We all wake up every morning with hope, right? We're Browns fans. We've that internal hope. Also, remember, wherever you are, that you, as a Browns fan, you always will have other Browns fans' backs, and there are other Browns fans out there that will always have your back. And always remember this, folks. You know this more than I. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Take care, Browns fans. Have a very good rest of your day. Make it a good one. Go Browns!